In this lecture segment, last semester's students would like to share some of their lessons learned with you, and I'd like to offer some of my own suggestions as well. Okay, let's get started. For all the semesters I've been teaching this course, the last question on my final exam has always been the same. Please write some short lessons learned to next semester's CS12 students regarding how to succeed in this course, things you think they'd need to know, or anything else about the course that comes to mind. What do you wish you'd known much sooner? Unless you indicate otherwise, I'd like to share your anonymous comments with them at the beginning of next semester, just as I did with you at the beginning of this semester. So what I did was transcribe their responses from off the final exams, sort them into broad general topics, and group similar responses together. The comments appearing on the following slides are their verbatim comments to you from last semester. They have much more to say than we can possibly cover here, but let's take a look at some representative comments. As stated elsewhere, all course materials needed will be available to you on Canvas, so make full use of them. Regarding the Canvas materials, the general sentiment was to make full use of them and read them all every week before starting on the assignments, and to not skip over the code walkthroughs. Here's what last semester's students had to say. The lecture videos are great and explain everything well. Another important point is how insightful the video lectures are for this class. Not only do they prepare you for writing your own code, but they also contain vital information for the midterm and final. Look over all the PDF files and videos before you start coding. This is a tough lesson to understand at the beginning of the class, but go through all lecture material, code walkthroughs, and example files before considering yourself stuck. Everything you need is contained in all lecture materials. I would say the biggest advice I could give is to watch all of the instructional videos in the module system before starting any homework assignment. If you try to jump in, it will take you 5 times the amount of time and frustration than if you just watch the lecture videos and then do the homework assignment. Over the semesters, students have consistently offered similar advice regarding the assignments. Namely, start on them as soon as possible and give yourself time to deal with problems, and keep up on them because they do build on each other. I'll probably harp on these things often, but these are past students talking, not me. In their words, a good tip to succeed in this course is to stay on top of the assignments. Do all of your assignments thoroughly and don't miss any of them. One thing I learned this semester is don't fall behind on assignments because it's very hard to catch up. These labs stack on top of each other, meaning in order to understand the next lab, a student must first understand the previous one. Complete all assignments thoroughly. The snowball effect is real, and you will reference nearly all of your programs later on. For every single assignment given, a grading rubric will be provided, and this will be the vehicle for providing you with detailed feedback specific to your efforts. The expectation is that you will use this as a pre-submittal checklist and will then review and incorporate any feedback provided into your subsequent programs to improve them. As your fellow students put it, read the grading rubric. Professor Lapkus does really well at giving constructive notes. Utilize his feedback and update your programs after they have been turned in and graded. Read every single piece of feedback you receive. This professor gives a ton of detailed feedback, and it would be a shame to let it go to waste. Whether or not you think you already know why you scored high or low on a section, read it anyway. You will need to get feedback from more than just your own perspective because there are a ton of ways to solve the simplest of problems in programming. Coding style and conventions are the little details, the good rules of the road in programming, which help make your code read and look better, both to you and to anyone else reading it, such as an instructor trying to grade it. We will be emphasizing lots of these little things in the first half assignments to help make them regular habits. Here's what your peers had to say. Following proper coding conventions style is really important. In terms of clarity and readability, both you as a programmer and those who read your code, primarily your instructor in this course. My style and process of coding has greatly improved because Professor Lapkus was such a stickler on good coding conventions. I consistently struggled with the formatting of the data. I could get my programs to run and compile, but not look nice. Pay attention to the formatting of strings and numbers when it comes up in lectures, and it will help you not get frustrated later on during more complex programs. By contrast, Good programming practices are larger, more general habits and best practices that help you write your code with more efficiency, less stress and frustration, and better end results. These are the good habits will help you develop over the course of the semester. As your predecessors learned through hard experience, really take the divide and conquer advice seriously with these assignments. Some advice I'd give to future students is to take everything step by step instead of jumping straight into coding for the assignments. This includes reviewing every lecture material, reviewing the requirements for the assignment, typing up some pseudocode, etc. Give yourself enough time when working on the assignments to break it up and step away when you get stuck. You will almost certainly get stuck at some point. Clearing your head and coming back can be amazingly helpful. Learn to use the Java debugger. It will be extremely helpful for finding out what's wrong with your programs. Overall, I recommend starting early on the lessons and assignments, asking questions, and taking a break if you are ever frustrated and stuck on something. Experimenting is simply the idea that to get good at any skill such as programming, it's not enough to simply read or watch the lecture videos and do the assignments. You really need to be willing to play around with the language a bit more on your own and study the examples provided to see what makes them tick. In the words of your predecessors, one other way to learn programming is by making mistakes. The more mistakes you make, the more you can avoid them in the future. The videos in particular are packed with extra takeaways that will make your assignments more doable. Then read the code, break it, understand it, and practice, practice, practice. Keep a second JGrasp window open and do some experimenting while you work on your projects. Learn to devise your own plan to solve a problem after you get the fundamentals down. The final advice I would give is to play around with your code a little bit while you write. Of course, this is only possible if you give yourself enough time before the assignment is due. You have to work hard to get better at something. At first, the Java language felt strange and foreign to me. But by the end of the semester, I was able to create cool programs that I never thought I could do at the beginning. Here's a biggie which students always seem to struggle with: asking questions. I realize it's often very hard for younger students to do, but it's vital in an online setting like ours. And the ones who were brave enough to take that leap usually found themselves amply rewarded. Here's what they had to say. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If something doesn't make sense, or you can't figure something out, don't be afraid to message the professor. Ask Professor Lapkus questions, as he will always respond in a timely manner. Always ask questions, no matter how stupid they seem. The professor is very nice about it and will help you until you get it. It is okay to ask questions if you are stuck. Having the knowledge about a problem is the first step to overcome it. Ask questions, 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 but only after you make a reasonable effort to exhaust the resources provided to you. As noted in the syllabus, I will gladly do one-time code reviews of your assignments before you turn them in. This helps you wring out the simple errors in your programs, helps me to expedite the grading, and generally results in better scores for you. As past students noted, take advantage of code reviews. They can help you avoid a lot of silly and unnecessary mistakes. Utilize code review. One of the most helpful aspects once you think you've got the program down, simply submit your program via Canvas messaging, directing the professor to any problem areas you may think you have, and he'll help you out. One thing that I wish I had done was take advantage of Professor Lapkus's offer to send in programs early for a code review, so you can receive feedback and improve your program before the due date. Office hours will be held online weekly, as noted in the syllabus. In these sessions, we can get questions answered in real time, do some demos of the upcoming assignments, and have some time to demonstrate things like debugging programs. Students who attended regularly found these sessions very helpful, or as they put it, take advantage of the CCC Confer meetings recordings. They are very helpful when working on the homework. Attend the office hours or watch the recordings. Many of the problems I encountered and questions I had were answered during these sessions. Attend, watch office hours. If you're struggling to get started on a project and can't insinuate any connection to sample code, office hours will be a lifesaver. Also, take advantage of CCC Confer. I didn't use the recordings till the last few weeks of the course, and instantly regretted that choice as soon as I watched the first lecture. They provide in-depth detail on the assignment, as well as an opportunity to ask the professor questions in real life. As noted early in the syllabus, the course pacing will start out leisurely, but will pick up steam quickly as the semester advances, particularly in the second half after the midterm. So be forewarned, or as prior students point out, things might appear slow and simple in the beginning, but the pace picks up significantly toward the latter half of the semester. Make sure you are prepared for that. Don't get too comfortable with the pace of the class at the beginning of the semester. It gets a lot more in-depth and difficult towards the end. As Professor Lapkus has stressed, the class starts out slow, but will speed up after the midterm. Take this seriously. It really does build up quickly and continues to build on itself. At first, the material seems and it is rather easy. You'd be tempted and most likely will procrastinate. Simply don't. Professor Lapkus will tell you and everyone else in your class the same thing, as he told us throughout the semester. Hence, for your own sake, do listen. Don't underestimate the warning that the pace and challenge of the course will start to pick up at about the midway point. It does, but the help is there if you need it, and the challenge is worth it. Over all the semesters I've been teaching this course, effective time management has consistently been the biggest and most painful lesson learned, and the one which elicits the most responses. The same general themes keep coming up every semester. I can point these things out until I'm blue in the face, but please heed past students' advice such as this. Don't procrastinate. So, if you want to do well in the class, you must begin working on the programs days before they're due. Time. Manage your time wisely so that you can spend enough of it understanding the material before diving into the assignments. Don't wait until the last minute. Also, starting the assignments early before the deadline, with plenty of time to ask questions, can really ease the frustration of last-minute errors and bugs. Plan out a significant amount of time to work on the homework throughout the week. Do not leave it until the weekend. If you run into any problems, you will not have enough time to get those questions answered, and you will run into problems. Overall, you should study as soon as you can and start assignments as soon as possible. Finally, some general encouragement from last semester's students to you, which I think nicely sums things up. In the beginning of the semester, some of the ideas might seem hard to grasp. Everything eventually makes sense as you learn more. There will be frustrating moments. Just keep trying. If you ask questions and don't take too much time on one assignment, you'll succeed in this class. Watch the videos, watch or go to office hours, and do the assignments until you have them working. Overall though, if you follow a routine to watch all the videos and do each assignment, you are set. Overall, this is a great class. It is not easy, but it is worth the struggle and will help you build your foundation in programming. I hope that these lessons help you. Best of luck to the future students. Well, there you have it. Last semester's students' advice to you. There's lots of useful, hard-won advice here. I'll surely be harping on many of these things during the semester, but please take heed of this advice from your peers. And hopefully you too will be able to pay it forward to next semester's students at the end of this semester. Finally, here's some advice that I'd like to leave you with based on my experience in teaching this course. Divide and conquer. Tackle any big programming assignment by breaking it down into smaller pieces and solving those pieces one at a time. Begin any program you'll write with pseudocode. Start all your new programs with the program template we'll be creating soon. Then begin by creating a commented outline of what you want your code to do without having to worry about all the details yet. Get in the habit early on of using a quick, tight programming cycle. Make some code changes, save your changes, compile your code, test it, and then repeat. Over and over again. I see students try to write their programs in one pass. Then when that code blows up with compile errors, they have no idea as to where to start to fix their problems. You'll get a taste of the preferred incremental approach when you create your first Hello World program this week. Along those lines, simplicity. Get something simple working first, then gradually build it up and keep adding on to it. Do not try to write an entire program in one shot. Rather, start small and keep adding on to it. Again, you'll get practice with this approach when you write this week's Hello World program. Finally, Do your very best to keep up with the class. Don't let yourself get behind in the material or on the assignments, because everything builds upon earlier concepts. In particular, programs later in the semester will directly extend and build upon earlier ones. This will be very important to keep in mind after the midterm. And finally, please remember, I am always here to help you with that in any way I can. I'll leave you with this one final thought. There is no shame in not knowing. The shame lies in not finding out. If in doubt, if unsure, if confused, make sure to do something to figure it out. It's okay to get stuck, but don't let yourself stay stuck. Okay, that's the end of this lecture segment. We'll pick back up by starting to get into Java itself.